Hi, I'm Pippa Brashear.
And I'm Jenna Morgus.
We're with SCAPE Landscape Architecture and representing the SCAPE team, which includes SCAPE, ESA, and the Dredge Research Collaborative. We're here today to present our strategy for the ReBeach competition, which is called Living with a Changing Beach. So we know that Oceanside is a city that is shaped culturally and economically by its relationship to the shoreline. That throughout its history, Oceanside's experience has really been linked with the beach, particularly its surfing culture and the lifestyle associated with living near the ocean. And that the beach itself, is the place where people and water come together and land come together and create the vibrant place that Oceanside is today and has been over time. But we know that this place is also under threat from both near and long-term risks. And nowhere is this more visible than Oceanside's narrow and eroding beaches. Erosion and accretion are natural processes, but in recent decades, beach losses have been dramatic, leaving almost no beach left for the activities that sustain the places that we love. We also know that Oceanside's beach has been sustained through ongoing beach nourishment, but we know from this competition that nourishment alone is not sustainable in the long term. We also know that the shoreline faces new challenges from increasing storms and sea level rise, and that these conditions are here to stay. And so to understand how we can adapt for the future, we also wanted to look at the history of Oceanside and Southern California beaches more broadly, to understand how we interact and can craft a design proposal for today and tomorrow. And what we found is that the beaches we know and love in Oceanside are not necessarily natural. They have been shaped by human hands. There have been times when human actions upstream have increased sediment loads that are transported downstream to the beaches, and others where large quantities of sand have been added directly to Oceanside's beaches. For example, through the placement of material dredged from the harbors and lagoons onto the beach to create the wide sandy beaches we see today. Just as human actions have created beach over time, human actions have also started to contribute to erosion, both by cutting off tidal tributaries and limiting the sediment supply through upstream damming and channel hardening, to the interruption of natural sand movement along the shoreline, such as with the construction of breakwaters, coastal developments, and the revetments that go along with protecting that development. And so our approach and the design concept we're here to share with you today is titled Living with a Changing Beach. We acknowledge this change and want to develop an implementable, adaptable, and potentially replicable strategy for Oceanside. When we spoke to you last, we presented 4 nature-based strategies that we think could be layered along the Oceanside shoreline in different combinations: the cobble spine, the cobble crests, dunes, and nearshore reefs. These are features that will need to be constructed. They are engineered, but they are based on naturally occurring beach conditions and dynamics that we can find in the Southern California coastline. The goal is to adapt these features to the realities of Oceanside today and tomorrow in a way that can sustain and expand your beach. And when we first presented our ideas, we got a lot of feedback from you. And we hope that you see and hear the feedback in what we share and present today. This is some of that feedback. But we also want to remind you that this is just a step in the process. You're going to see a design, you're going to see renderings, but these are not finished. These are in progress. And your feedback will be critical to our shaping a successful project that meets your needs. And this feedback has already really shaped our project goals. First and foremost, that we want to test the ability of nature-based solutions to stabilize a perched beach and retain a usable sandy back beach area. We're going to use and draw from the materials and methods that are inspired by historic conditions of California coastal ecosystems. But we also know that we need to preserve access to a beach and support the vibrant social activities of the Oceanside beach, and do that in the context of our changing environment. So we propose piloting new physical and social configurations at the beach that can adapt to climate change. And to do that, we want to develop a low impact project that also doesn't exacerbate negative conditions elsewhere. But it's important to be able to implement quickly and efficiently so that we can then study, adapt, and grow over time. There is urgency here. We want to enable you to incorporate those adaptive management techniques and manage the system over time, but also understand it and start to adapt it to new locations. And so to do that, we are proposing a pilot that has nature-based solutions for beach stabilization and expansion and tests novel nature-based systems with the potential to accrete sand. By doing this, we really hope to strike a middle ground between traditional hard sand retention strategies and the currently unsustainable practice of beach nourishment alone. We know that traditional sand retention strategies like groins and nearshore breakwaters can be really effective sand retention, but they can also dramatically change the beach into something that doesn't work for the activities that you want to do there and that may have negative impacts on adjacent beaches. We also know, on the other hand, that beach nourishment alone requires consistent action and renourishment, and this may not be sustainable with the resources you have available over time. Typically, berms and dunes provide stabilization, protection, and some sediment storage. In addition, through this project, we have the opportunity to test the accretion and retention potential of a novel nature-based strategy. And again, nature-based strategies will require adaptive management, but we will test and adapt that over time. So what are we proposing? We are proposing a pilot at Tyson Street Park. This is one project in one place, and we've chosen this place because it is an intersection of public assets and a narrowing threatened beach. The site at Tyson Street Park is already publicly owned land. It contains an existing cobble spine that we can build upon, creating a pilot that can be cost-effective and potentially replicable to other portions of the Oceanside shoreline. And we call this Dune Park. To describe the design, I'm going to hand the presentation over to my colleague at SCAPE, Jenna Maurice.
Great. Thanks, Pippa. So I'm going to dive a little bit further into Dune Park and break down the nature-based strategies that Pippa has mentioned in the beginning of the presentation. This is an image of Tyson Street Beach today, where we see the narrowing public beach, an existing expression of cobble at the shoreline edge, and the strand and the lawn at Tyson Street Park. And when we look at this in plan, we can once again see the tapering of this sandy beach until it ultimately becomes entirely an exposed cobble spine. Tyson Street Park has a lot of lawn and a lot of pavement, which is quite different. It's quite a different landscape than the natural Southern California beach landscapes we all know so well. In the Dune Park pilot proposal, we combine our 4 nature-based strategies, dunes, cobble spines, cobble crests, and nearshore reefs, to build resilience along the oceanside shoreline. We propose to shift the strand back toward the bluff and realign the public assets of Tyson Street Beach to create space for native dunes, habitat walkways, and create a new park experience based in native Southern California landscapes. This also creates room for a new beach experience at Oceanside. We propose to expand and stabilize the beach and shift the focus to an elevated perched beach where people can recreate and have a new space. This image shows an existing cross-section of the site, including the playground at Tyson Street Lawn and the Tyson Street Lawn area. You can see how these elements are higher than the existing beach and slope down to the elevation of the strand, which is a little bit lower. And we can see how the strand is adjacent to a small sand beach stretch with a lot of cobbles sloping down into the offshore surf. Our team proposes to reconfigure this cross-section. What we will do today is walk you through the Dune Park cross-section design piece by piece, starting from the upland portion of the dunes, looking at the beach condition at the cobble spine and cobble crests, and ending with the nearshore reef system. All of the parts of this proposal work together. So dunes are our first strategy. And this image is from a historic condition of Tyson Street Park. It's from the 80s. You can see sandy vegetated topographic spaces that are now currently gone. What is amazing about this image is how the dune landscape stitches together the beach and the bluff across the strand. Our team has also been inspired by contemporary examples of nature-based dune projects like the Cardiff Living Shoreline and Surfers Point in Ventura. What is interesting about both of these proposals is that they have a cobble base with a sand layer on top of it and native dune vegetation. While these two projects have different goals than Dune Park, we could look to them for inspiration on how they were able to repurpose local materials, including cobble and dune features, to create innovative resilience strategies. So we propose to transform the static condition of Tyson Street Park into one that is immersive and dynamic, one that highlights a native dune ecosystem constructed with a cobble base. We propose boardwalk pathways that move throughout the site, allowing users to experience the dunes. In this view, which was taken from the existing location of the Strand, you can see the proposed sandy beach created through repurposing Tyson Street Park and expanding the beach shoreward with the cobble crests beyond. And so when we look at the cross-section in further detail, you can see the dune area width is about 100 feet wide. Where Tyson Street Park was, we've converted the grassy area into a dune with cobble and sand. Dunes are designed at elevations that respond to anticipated water levels today, as well as in the future. And we want to emphasize that this space is also a social park for recreation, as programs like the beach play and a designated dog park are incorporated into the dune design language. Importantly, we've also created a sandy perched beach to really do the things that people love to do on the beach, like laying out their towels, sitting in the sun in their chairs, putting up an umbrella, or laying out their surfboards and engaging in talking to your neighbor. The perched beach is an elevated sandy beach that will include portions of today's Tyson Street Park, the area where the Strand is today, all of what is today's eroding beach, and it will expand that beach oceanward until it reaches the cobble cusps, which will separate the sandy beach area from the intertidal zone. The shoreward face of the cobble cusps and cobble crests will, in this condition, already seen along the existing beach at Tyson Street Park and at moments throughout the year. This image shows how the play space might feel nested at the base of the bluff. You can see that the Strand is adjacent to this space and weaves through new landscapes that echo the look and feel of Southern California. So the cobble spine and the cobble crests are the nature-based approaches that we're going to walk through today. And here we're using historic imagery to understand previous beach conditions along the oceanside shoreline. This image is from 1965, looking towards Tyson Street Park after harbor dredging. What's interesting about this image is the emergence of cobble features coming off the beaches and into the surf zone. Our design looks to mimic this feature through an engineered approach to embed boulders in the cobble crests to stabilize them and test their potential to accrete and retain sand. At San Onofre State Beach, we once again see this mix of cobble and sand across the beach, creating the spine, having crests extending out into the water and creating pockets of intertidal sand, but also stretches of dry sand. Of course, San Onofre has erosion and sand retention issues of its own, but again, we have the ability through this design to test the sand accretion and retention potential of engineered and stabilized crests, and we're using this as inspiration for our project. And so, like Pippa has mentioned, what we want to do is use all of the material that we have on our site and build upon it through the conversion of Tyson Street Park and through the elevation and extension of the existing beach out towards the shore. We've designed the perched beach at a higher elevation so that it will lift away from wave action and prolong the lifespan of the perched beach. And the condition that we have today in terms of beach is about 5 to 30 feet maximum of sandy beach area. And what we're proposing with the Dune Park design is the ability to stabilize a wide sandy perched beach by lifting it above and landward of the existing cobble layer, adding a sand cap and establishing cobble crests coming out into the water. This creates an opportunity to stabilize the perched sandy beach, widen the existing conditions by both expanding the beach towards the shore and converting Tyson Street Park into new beach spaces. The design also creates moments to test the potential accretion within the cobble crest features. This cross-section shows the conceptual parameters around the slopes, the widths, and the heights of these features. You can see the existing dry cobble deposit, and this yellow and black speckled area is the addition of cobble material with a sand cap. So we'll be needing to import a large volume of cobble and sand to create these elevated features. And within the cobble crests, as they slope down into the water, you can see we're using some different materials. We propose to use larger cobble that transitions into boulder-sized material perpendicular to the shore in the core of the crests, and then larger boulders around the seaward edge of that formation to protect the toe of the cobble crests. This is anticipated to provide some stability to these features. And we also want to recognize that there's an incredible amount of work that's monitoring change along Oceanside's beaches. The Grunion graders are monitoring Grunion runs, and SOS is monitoring beach transects. And this pilot is a great opportunity to link up with these efforts to understand change over time and monitor how the pilot could potentially function. Grunion would not likely be able to use Dune Park because they cannot get above cobble and they avoid cobble areas, but Grunion graders could see if Grunion end up using areas in the project site to inform modification of features in the future. We have also heard from the community that the movement of cobble is constant. And so what we would like to do with this project is figure out ways of tracking cobble to understand potential shifts in the dynamics of this proposal. And Scripps has put forth a potential pathway to do so through their cobble tracking project. So our last strategy is nearshore reefs, which are offshore structures once again inspired by Southern California reefs. Of course, natural reefs like these are massive and connected to extensive bedrock formations and a different material than our proposal, but the Corona del Mar example illustrates the connectivity of an offshore reef to a nearshore feature. In this section, you can see how our nearshore reef proposal is a combination of cobble and larger boulder material. It is fully submerged under the mean low water line, and this is meant to work in reciprocity with our cobble crests to offer the ability to test the potential accretion and retention of sand in between these features. Now I'm going to flip it over to Pippa to talk about Dune Park performance.
Thank you, Jenna. In summary, Dune Park is going to create an expanded sandy beach area by repurposing the existing Tyson Street Park and creating a perched beach above and behind a cobble spine. The proposed sandy beach is sustained and stabilized by upland dunes, which can be a sand source, as well as the cobble spine, cobble crests, and nearshore reefs, which slow sand offshore and where we have the ability to test the potential of this novel feature to accrete sand over time. But it's important to remember that Dune Park is more than just a sandy beach realignment and extension project. It is an opportunity to transform the oceanside waterfront. It is not only that creates a perched beach to sustain the uses and activities you enjoy today, but Dune Park creates a new, exciting opportunity for the social and ecological activity of the future through repurposing upper upland spaces and building out the beach. It really charts a new future for Oceanside that celebrates your past, where you've been, your present, and creates spaces for new opportunities to emerge. And we hope that you agree. It is also important to remember and acknowledge that it is still and will be a changing beach. Today, seasonally, you see the shoreline change. And we know that the sand and cobbles, as Jenna described, will still shift in our design. This may require periodic maintenance over time and even maintenance and nourishment after movement of the dunes and the beach after a large storm. And so the other thing we want to come back to is this idea of the Dune Park as a pilot. It is a pilot for this Tyson Street Beach shoreline, but it's also about testing and learning from these strategies. With the information on how these features work in situ, we can refine, modify, and adapt them to other locations in Oceanside. We want to reiterate that these are just conceptual locations where cobble spine, cusps, and nearshore reefs could be replicated and expanded. These would need to be studied. but we really believe that this adaptable, replicable, and scalable approach can help create an engaging, aspiring, and sustainable shoreline for Oceanside tomorrow. I'm now going to turn it over to James Jackson from our partner ESA to wrap up with a technical briefing on the project. Thank you so much.
Hi, folks. My name is James Jackson with ESA. I'm going to take a few minutes to talk through the design criteria and feasibility considerations for our proposed concept. I'm going to take a high-level approach here. Feel free to pause and read through some of the more technical details in these following slides. I'd like to start with beach performance. Our proposed concept at the Dune Park will expand the perched dry beach along this 600-foot segment of shoreline. The expanded beach will include additional beach into the ocean from this existing strand of about 50 feet. And with the realignment of the strand, will create new expanded beach area up to 150 feet wide. The goals for the Dune Park concept are to apply nature-based approaches to encourage a more resilient beach and retain more sand in the near shore. And these features will be more flexible and adaptable with modest amounts of sea level rise. Our proposed concept provides a number of environmental benefits. We're intending to create and restore habitats, including sandy beach, coastal foredune habitats, enhance the bluff habitat behind Tyson Street Park, as well as introduce additional rocky intertidal and subtidal habitat. The existing conditions at the site are about 1 acre of parkland, and that includes lawn, pavement, and playground that will be reconfigured or replaced with the more natural components. And seaward of the park, there's existing small area of dry sand and some exposed cobble and otherwise open water over which the concept will be implemented. Public access and recreation opportunities include enhancing the shared use path along the strand. We'll be reconfiguring playground area and introducing new dune play areas. There will be interpretive and educational elements in a designated dog park area. We'll be adding an ADA accessible ramp down from South Pacific Street above the park across the bluff to improve that access. We'll have additional access paths through the dunes and beach out towards the ocean, and overall an expanded sandy beach providing more recreational space. The cobble and boulder nearshore reefs have the potential to create novel surfing experiences, and we'll also be incorporating a monitoring plan to evaluate the impacts to local surfing conditions at this location. Maintenance of the Dune Park concept will include actions to maintain the cobble boulder elements as well as the placed sandy beach. We anticipate that the seaward face of the cobble berm and cobble crests will adjust with larger swell events and stormy winters, and may need to be reconfigured after each winter season. Over time and after these types of events, the cobble may eventually disperse or sink, and the time frame is not exactly known, but there will be a need to reconfigure and introduce additional cobble and boulder material as larger impacts are experienced on this feature. The perched beach that we are proposing on top of the cobble berm may be impacted during severe winter events where wave run-up can erode parts of the beach, and so this dry perched beach may need to be renourished, particularly along the seaward edge of that beach as large swell and winter storm events occur. The parameters and values for construction costs and operations and maintenance considerations are still in development, and we'll be providing additional detail in the next phase of this design competition. Finally, I wanted to talk about a few regional considerations, and the Dune Park concept provides an opportunity to pilot and test natural shoreline enhancement approaches in an urban setting. And there's, I think, a great potential to be a leader in Oceanside in implementing such a nature-based solution and evaluating the potential for its applicability to the rest of Oceanside and the Southern California region and beyond. The intent of this nature-based approach is to slow the longshore sediment transport in the area, but not completely eliminate the longshore transport, and thus minimize impacts to down and up coast communities. Thank you very much.